Hello, everybody. Welcome to the conversation of our generation, where we are solving the problems of today with the wisdom of the past. My name is Nick Jamel, the creator and the host of the podcast here, and I'm excited to talk to you today about Plato's Symposium because I talked earlier this week in my last episode about how we heal the divided nation by understanding each other and having a dialogue where we put ourselves in the other person's shoes, try to understand their position, give them as much grace and leeway as possible, and really try to seek truth together, right? And I've been talking about that a lot. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about the symposium is because I think it's a great way to learn how to have these conversations. Aristotle, I think, does a amazing job of showing you the ways to walk through ideas and how they logically connect. I think he's the best at that as far as the ancient Greeks go. But Plato and how he portrays Socrates shows you, I think, the best way of how to have a discussion about philosophy, how to understand each other's ideas and to ask the right kinds of questions to draw out what the person's really trying to say. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, what you can learn from the symposium about having conversations. So that's how we're going to look at it. It's a little bit different angle than just what's the content of the symposium, because you're going to have to read it. So just use the link in the show notes to figure out, to go buy it for yourself. And doing that through the link in the show notes helps support me and my work at the Conversation of Our Generation. And if you want to support me, you can definitely do a couple things. I mean, you can become a member at my locals. You get early access to the videos and the podcasts and everything like that. So that's definitely huge. I'm going to be rolling out some more content there as I get some members to be rolling that out too. I think that the other thing that you get there is you get a signed copy of my book if you become a member there for just $2 a month. So $2 a month, you help support me, what I do, and pay me. I mean, it takes a lot of time to create this podcast, to put in the work to edit 2 episodes a week, get them out there, plan what I'm going to do. That type of stuff all takes a little bit of time. And scheduling tweets, all of those things to engage with the community and get spark dialogues takes time. And so, if you get $2 worth of value a month from me, I just ask that you support me there and help me to grow and reach more people, because that's really what that's going to be used to do, is not to buy me an extra bottle of whiskey, although, okay, some of it might be used to buy me an extra bottle of whiskey per month, but most of it will be used to put back into growing this show and reaching more people and bringing more people into the conversation of our generation and getting them involved in this dialogue that's important. And so check out my locals, or you can even just support the podcast for 99 cents a month on Anchor. If you go to my Anchor support page, you can do that there. Just go to anchor.fm, search Conversation of Our Generation, and click support. You can find that, or there's a link in the show notes for that as well. But that helps me out. And then lastly, just follow me on Twitter, Facebook, at Con of Our Gen on Twitter. If you just search Conversation of Our Generation on pretty much any social media, I'm there. YouTube, follow me there. So, and if you're listening to this podcast, subscribe, leave a good rating and review. That stuff really helps me out. And so now let's dive into Plato's Symposium. And the quote of the week this week is a little different, because one of the things that I love about the symposium is it gives you this great description of what Socrates was like. And I think it's hilarious. In all honesty, he's just an odd fellow. Because he's very, that he fought in the wars. He's very athletic he's a very manly man, very much, anyone at that time had to be much more hard than we are today. We are very soft because we're very comfortable generally, but a very hard-nosed man, very strong and all of that, and very smart. Obviously, we know him as a philosopher, but this is one of the passages from the Symposium, so you can get a little bit of a look into what he's like. It says, Socrates dropped behind in a fit of abstraction and desired Aristodemus, who was waiting, to go on before him. When he reached the house of Agathon, he found the doors wide open, and a comical thing happened. A servant coming out met him and led him at once to the banqueting hall, in which the guests were reclining, for the banquet was about to begin. Welcome, Aristodemus and Agathon. As soon as he appeared, you were just in time to sup with us. If you come on sorry, if you come on any other matter, put it off and make one of us, as I was looking for you yesterday and meant to have asked you if I could have found you. But what have you done with Socrates? And the next line is he turns around and realizes Socrates isn't there because he stopped and was just thinking. And he comes in later, and what starts this is Socrates arrives to this party late where he has already invited these two people to come to this party with him, right? And so these people show up to the party without the person who invited them to the party, and not knowing where he went. And he comes in late and says, "Hey, I have an idea. I was thinking about this. We should talk about this." And basically, it died after that. The conversation gets going, and they start to give speeches in honor of love and to toast to love, basically. And that's where this starts, is they're toasting to this and they're trying to describe love and give it the honor that it deserves. And so this book is a discussion really on love between several friends. You have a doctor, some poets, others are philosophers like Socrates and some of his friends, and even political uh, politicians, rather. So, but each has an insight into what love is. And so, what I found really helpful in this, in learning how to have the dialogues and discussing these ideas, is that because this is written in the form of a dialogue, you can see how these people play their ideas off of each other. And they do so really well. I mean, the only conflict really, as far as negative conflict, is between Socrates and some young boy who has a crush on him and wants and is trying to seduce him, and Socrates isn't having any of it. And so he's sort of makes a big scene of that. But other than that, really the rest of the discussion goes pretty well. And so the men in the conversation really take each other's ideas seriously, even though they have very different ideas and they have very different conceptions about love and what it is and why it's good and what it offers. Despite all of that, they still take each other's ideas seriously, listen to each other out, like listen out, ask good questions when they do ask questions. And although they could attack one another's arguments, they try to build their own and put forward their own case, and each person lets the other do that. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this discussion. And then lastly, what I really find beautiful is it's trying to get at truth, and it's not trying to win an argument. It's not trying to be right, or no one there is trying to. I mean, there are people who are, I think, have their ideas and think they're right. They do put that forward, but each one of them is kind of exploring this idea together, and each one is recognizing the fact that they're all trying to get to a deeper sense of truth, and together they explore this idea in a very different way than what we're used to, I guess, to say the least, where when we explore an idea, it's generally angry back and forth or trying to undermine each other's arguments. In this, it's very much trying to put forth your idea and understand each other's ideas and build on one another's ideas where you can, and give credit to each other where credit is due. And I think that that's a wonderful thing that you get from this, is how to have that discussion in a much more honest, open, and truth-seeking manner. And so, like I said, another part of this book that I really love is that picture of Socrates that you get, because so many of our historical figures seem cold and just like you think of them and you just think of the work or the accomplishments that they had, and you don't think of them as a human being who had relationships with other people, who lived in a certain time and place. You don't think of all those things. And so when you look back and you see someone in a certain place and time doing certain things and having certain beliefs and ideas, I think it makes it a lot more relatable to look at history through that lens. I love the Pints with Jack podcast because you get a look into C.S. Lewis's life and what was going on and what he's reacting to, and you understand his work a lot better when you do that. And I think you understand Plato's work of trying to get Socrates' ideas into writing because he's doing all this amazing stuff and not recording his own ideas. He just talks and tries to seek truth, which is amazing and a very noble endeavor. And he really changes the course of how we go about having dialogues, I think, for 2,000 years, 2,500 years. And it's only been in the last few decades that we've turned away from the Socratic method largely as a culture and to critical theory, which is terrible and garbage. And we should go back to the Socratic method because it is a wonderful way of inquiring about knowledge and wisdom. And so Plato takes these ideas down and captures not only his wisdom and his knowledge, but his character and who this man is. And I think that in order to understand his profundity, you also have to understand who Socrates is, because it's just like understanding how Abraham Lincoln or our founding fathers or an emperor of Rome was able to make an impact on their culture and their society. You have to understand who they were and in what role they were playing what role they were playing in their society as a leader. I think you have to see who Socrates is and what role he's playing, and a little bit more about his character to fully understand and appreciate his wisdom and knowledge. And so that, I think, is well worth checking out this book just to get that picture. But the dialogue itself is tremendous and it's insightful, and it's not how we would in a Christian culture, or as a Christian, I guess I should say. It's not how we would picture or portray love, but it is very insightful, and there are a lot of great and interesting ideas. And even if it's not what we would consider true or fully true, I think that there is a great deal of understanding that we can get from looking at non-Christian sources on love and virtue and things like that, because you can see how much reason can offer. You can see how much logic can take you to, and where that stops adding value to your there's a point where logic and reason drops off and you need to look to some other source like religion and arts and things like that to sort of encapsulate those things that you can't argue for or put words to fully. And that's where I think these guys do a great job of getting to that point and quoting the great epics and the poems that you may or may not have read. I think I'd read some of what they talked about, but not all of it for sure. And so some of the references were a little lost on me. I will also link up to an episode of Young Heretics where Spencer Clavin talks about the Symposium, because that also helps give you a lot of background knowledge if you're having trouble reading it. It definitely helped me as I was going into it. So I'm going to link to that as well, because I think that's a very helpful resource. So, but I think that that's what's beautiful about this mostly, is how they touch this sort of infinite reality of love and do so with just the human faculties of reason. They're able to describe this elusive and almost impossible to understand reality. It truly is incomprehensible, the bounds of love. If in the Christian framework, if God is love and love is God and God is infinite, we really can't understand the full depths of what love is. And these men do a great job of, some better than others, do a great job of getting to that truth and doing it together in a creative, and I hate the buzzword collaborative, but it is a collaborative effort between these guys having a good conversation and diving deeper and deeper and not just scratching the surface. And these are the kinds of conversations about virtue, about politics, about society and our culture that we need to be having, because these are the ones that are going to, these types of conversations, this one's lasted 2,500 years, right? Don't we want to have conversations that affect the entire world for centuries or millennia to come? Don't you want to be a part of that? I I think that would be tremendous. That would be a great honor, and that would be a great offer, a, a great act of charity for the world, to give them something that is so deep and so wise that generations and generations of people can look back at that and get value out of it and learn from it. I can't think of much else that's more beautiful and amazing than that. And so dive into some beauty, some really interesting ideas here with the Symposium. Buy the book here, check out Spencer Klavin's episode, and check out more of what I got going on at conversationofourgeneration.com. You can go over to my locals, conversationofourgeneration.locals.com, to become a member. That $2 a month really helps me out, supports what I do. And follow me, Twitter, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube and to the podcast, wherever you're listening. Leave a good rating and review, like the video, all of those things to just help spread this. And really, more than anything, if you enjoy these episodes, or you think someone else would like this, or you could sort of use a different point of view, send this out, share it with people, text it to a friend or whatever it is, and get these ideas out there, because the more people we bring into the conversation, the better chance we have at getting all the perspectives and getting at truth, because none of us can hold all of the knowledge in one place. So we need more and more people getting involved and bringing their perspectives, their different ideas, and coming together so that we can have that conversation in a search while searching for truth, and doing so in a way that we come out wiser and more knowledgeable. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Conversation of Our Generation. Let's get the dialogue going. I'll talk to you next time.